Have you ever been thirsty? I mean, like really thirsty. Or I suppose hungry, but thirst I know more than hunger. I remember one time, years ago, I had to. This woman picked me up and she brought me to her house and I don't know. I wanted to go home and get out of there, but nobody there wanted to drive me back. He was trying to kind of like make me have to stay there, and I had to get out of there. And I was about to leave and had like a 40 a beer or whatever, but they took it and dumped it and took it away from me. I was mad about that or whatever. Well, it was the only thing I had to drink at the time, and I guess I didn't. I was just kind of irritated, and I took off. I had to walk. I don't know exactly how far, but probably like maybe 20 miles or something to get back home. I walked, I don't know, it was still somewhat light out when I left, and I didn't get back even to a town where there was anything for like, it was, I don't remember what time it was, maybe 10 something in the morning. I walked the whole time. My heels, like my feet were literally bleeding. I lost a couple of toenails, and the heels of my feet were cut up and bleeding. I walked the whole way, and I didn't have any water, anything to drink. And I was so tired, my feet hurt, and a couple times the only water along the way was filthy in a ditch, muddy, filthy, disgusting looking, I soaked my feet in some of it a couple times because my feet hurt so much, and it felt good on my feet, but it wasn't really drinkable. I remember I walked into town and I tried stopping in all the stores. I must have been earlier in the morning when I got back, because I remember the stores were like closed, or the convenience store that I walked past, that was the first thing I came on. I wanted to go in there, and it was closed. And so I had to just keep on walking, and I saw this cup kind of in someone's yard by the sidewalk as I was walking past, and it had some like ice in it, and a little bit of melted ice and some ice that was left in the cup. I picked that up. That was like the best water I ever tasted in my life. Just that melted ice from somebody's cup that they threw out the window. I was so thirsty. I almost, when I imagine people walking through a desert, so thirsty that they'd drink their own piss just to have something to quench their thirst. On a spiritual level, and just in a sense of the sense of urgency of how important I feel like it is that people wake up and see how false things are and how wicked this world is becoming. I feel the same sort of sense of urgency about that as the sense of urgency of being so thirsty that you could almost drink anything just to have something to drink. Your mouth is so dry, it hurts. Your throat is so dry, you feel like it just scratchy and hurts, and you feel like you couldn't even hardly speak because your throat is just so freaking dry. That's what it, in a way, in a sense, it kind of feels like that when I look around and I see how utterly insane this world has become and how clear it is that almost no one can see, or the people don't even seem to care about what's going on, or they just believe, people are just chasing their tails, believing one false narrative after another, and it makes me sick. I look at the way this world is going, the poverty, the homelessness, the constant demand on our time and money, and the perversion and wickedness that I see everywhere is so sickening to me that I feel like I want to throw up in my mouth, and I have to keep down this utter fucking disgust and this fucking pain and just sadness of it all, feeling like I'm in some sort of hell in the way this world is. It's like hell built in paradise, like a prison hell built in the middle of the Garden of Eden, a place of such beauty, of such vast resources, such vast beauty, has just been made so ugly, so filthy, so smelling, disgusting, that just look at it and you just want to fucking, takes everything inside you not to just break down and cry, not to shout at the top of your lungs. You see that movie Tom Hanks, what's it called, Castaway, and he's talking to a volleyball Wilson because he's so fucking lonely, because that volleyball is the closest thing he has to a friend, and it's the only ear that'll lend itself to his voice, is this volleyball Wilson, his best friend, his only friend, is in his mind, his imagination. You imagine what it would be like to be stuck alone somewhere for years, and one day there's people to talk to. All of a sudden, how excited, how happy you would be to see the face of another human being, to have the ear of a real person to listen to you, to have someone that at least try to understand. I feel like much of the time I feel like I'm alone, but it's so strange to feel so alone, and you're surrounded by so many people, but it feels like, I feel like I'm on a whole other level of consciousness or something. I mean, I don't want to toot my own horn or something, because honestly, I'm a walking contradiction. In some regards, I may be one of the most intelligent people in the frickin' world or something, but in other regards, I just a total idiot, in some ways. I certainly have a talent for making a fool of myself and screw up. I just feel so Imagine if you hadn't had a hug in 10 years or something, right? If you lost your family and everything you loved and cared about is gone, and the first time over 10 years somebody actually listens to what you say and gives you a hug, how you would feel like break down and falling to your knees crying because the only kind of human affection or care that you've had in so many years. You feel so fucking alone because because there's just no one who understands what you're going through or what you've been through. You know, it and I feel like that Woody Harrelson poem, Thoughts from Within. I sometimes feel like an alien creature for which there is no earthly explanation, walking erect with opposing digits, but my mind is upside down. I feel like a run-on sentence in a punctuation-crazy world, and I see the world around me like a mad collective dream. You know? I feel that way so fucking much. That spoke to me, like, reached right in. Like, that is exactly, you know. I feel like you try to talk to people and it's like, it feels like you're using the same words, but it's like you're speaking a different language or something. It's like there's a language barrier, like, I don't know, it's like trying to, I remember like George Orwell's 1984, how they had invented newspeak, so the people there, you know, I mean, imagine like if you were from some other century, were well educated in the actual English language is the way it is, and you try to speak to people that in the Orwell's 1984, they would have no idea what you were saying. You're using the same words, but they mean something entirely different to them, because that's what it's like, kind of trying to speak to people. And I feel like just this sense of I don't want to mock people or say that they're foolish in so many ways. Your average person has, you know, exceeded me in many regards, and you know, handled their financial situations. They've got their life kind of together, a lot of people, but on the other hand, they don't have much of a clue about what's really going on in the world. They're in some sort of a state of hypnosis and just going through the motions, focused on trivialities and you know, you get up, you go to work, you punch the time clock, you go home, you watch TV, you watch the sports ball, set your alarm clock, get up the next morning, do the same thing all over again, over and over and over, and then you talk about the ball game, and you talk about the weather, you talk about the fucking Dancing with the Stars that you saw last night, or some fake political narrative about some melodrama playing out in the world. But ultimately, people just, I mean, maybe where I'm coming from is maybe that's why I know so much about what's going on, is because I've had a lot of fucking time on my hands. I haven't been busy like everybody else, going through the motions, running around, and, you know, my whole life hasn't been centered around trying to fit in and trying to, you know, be part of the crowd. I guess I was never, I don't know, that's not entirely true. There was actually a time when I was pretty popular. I was well liked. by most people, and people love talking to me, and lots of women were interested in me. Everybody wanted to be my friend. Everybody thought I was cool. I was way more of a douche back then, though. Honestly, I didn't think about things like I do now. I wasn't, you know, I didn't have anywhere near the level of introspection or comprehension of what goes on in the world and things. I wasn't a dummy, but I compared to now, like. But for whatever reason, as much as I feel like I've been improving, I still screw up. I still slip up every now and then, end up drinking too much and making a fool of myself. Say stupid things, or I come on too intensely because of what I kind of described earlier. I mean, imagine if you were alone on an island for like 10 years or 15 years or something, and nobody to talk to, and then you saw a real live human being. You'd have so many things to say. You'd have such a strong, intense desire to make a human connection with a real person, But at the same time, then when you try, you come on too intense, and you can't really communicate to them because your life experiences are so different, and they can't understand where you're coming from because they don't understand. They don't have that experience in their life. They don't know what it feels like to be alone for fucking 10 years and stuck in some fucking island and have no one to talk to. They don't know what it's like to just live inside your head and to think about things that, people are so busy that they don't have time to think, to question things. See the political situation, things going on in the world, and it's so clear, so blatantly obvious and ridiculous that it's almost like a comedy, I think it's a tragedy. Then I realized it's a comedy, Now it's a tragic comedy, I suppose. But it's I don't find it to be very funny because I could see how someone from a different perspective who has their house in order pretty much could sit back in some way and convince themselves that it's all just funny and everything's fine and think happy thoughts forever. But it's hard to do when you're kind of reminded of the lyrics of that 9 Inch Nails song. I was up above it, now down in it, From someone from a more elevated position who's above, who doesn't have to so many things to worry about, I could see how you could just find things to bring you happiness and distract yourself from thinking about negative things, and you could believe that everything's okay because you need it to be. It's sort of like a self-imposed cognitive dissonance way of avoiding, and I do it too. That's what fucking drinking is all about, is trying to shut. But that's a big fucking mistake, drinking, man. It's stupid. I've been doing it a lot less frequently anyways. And I'm starting to, get more clarity on the whole thing with the drinking. It's kind of getting to the point where I'm not even interested in it. When I do end up drinking, it almost feels like a fucking chore. Like I'm forcing myself to do something I don't even fucking want to do anymore. Just with some false promise of having some time of escapism when I don't have to fucking censor myself and try to don't have to constantly be fucking thinking about I gotta do this or that. I just feel like endless steady stream of fucking bullshit coming at me and fucking look at the world, and it's just fucking crazy. The expense, just watching money pissed away, and I do feel sort of like that intense desire, like thirst that I talk about, the thirst for human connection, real human connection, for honesty, for real truth, for compassion, for just understanding. I feel like I'm pretty dang misunderstood, and a lot of that is my fault. Partially because of, well, in large part, mostly because of times when I screwed up and drank and acted stupid or whatever, but I mean, you look into, like, if you look into conspiracy theory type stuff, right? And you see which, by the way, is a ridiculous term they came up with to try to cover up the whole, JFK situation or whatnot. But, I mean, I don't even know should that term even be used for anything anymore, honestly. I think it's obsolete at this point. You look at every crazy theory, it turns out to have a lot of freaking evidence to back it up if you look into anything, right? But what was I trying to get at? What it's like to know about stuff going on in the world and be surrounded by people that just don't have any fucking interest in knowing about it, that don't want to hear about it, think you're fucking nuts for seeing through shit that they can't see through because they don't even think about it. It's such a severe cognitive dissonance in this modern world that people are just absolutely unwilling, or even to the point of being unable to look at anything that makes them feel scared or uncomfortable. They rely on. I can understand that. I can comprehend that. I mean, why? But I'm not very good at being able to do that myself. Not really fully, because it feels like a responsibility to try to comprehend what's going on in the world and to try to think of solutions to the problems in the world and to try to figure out what the truth is and because things that are happening in the world, the direction that things are going, affects us all, and will affect future generations, will affect the destiny of humanity and the fucking planet or whatever the heck this place is, right? It will affect everything, We could see a future where we live in practically a paradise, or we could live in some dystopian fucking science fiction nightmare hellscape. Which would you rather live in? I mean, don't people care about children or about just what the hell kind of people act like they care so damn much all the time about people's rights and protect the kids and so on and so forth, but you look at all the things happening in the world and you see just a utter fucking madness, such destruction, Well, things are becoming so utterly insane that it may almost be to the point where there may be no coming back for the human race. If I guess I was almost tempted to try to remember a quote from the Bible. Was it about how if the days were not cut short, that no flesh would survive or something, because things just went so crazy. That's basically what it's looking like. It's headed towards here in this place. But at the same time, I see how prophecies of the Bible are sort of self-fulfilling, because you've got millions or hundreds of millions or more people on Earth that believe utterly in their religious convictions, and many of these people are very wealthy and influential, and they have the ability to try to steer the direction of the world. And it seems like almost like humanity is intentionally trying to bring about end times. They think that God's gonna come and we're gonna live in paradise or something if we just destroy the world and turn it into a hellscape or something. So they're kind of in a big rush to make everything all apocalyptic instead of trying to fix what's going on in the world. They don't want to stand up against the darkness. They just want to root for the darkness to come faster so that Jesus will come and save the day, or whatever other deity characters they want to, depending on the religious, what religion they happen to believe in. But I just wonder why it is that people have been lulled into such a trance, and how people have allowed themselves to fall into this storyline that we await some deus ex machina to rescue us from an apocalyptic situation, when if the people were fully human beings, we should be able to rescue the world ourselves. They say God helps those who help themselves, right? So I mean, when the British were coming, the British are coming, the British are coming, what do? Do you throw up your hands in prayer and say, "Dear Lord, save me from the British"? Sure. Or do you do something else? Just, I don't know, it's just, I can see how it may be very difficult, just impossible at this point, for humanity to be able to come back from this darkness that we've found ourselves in. Because it's multi-generational. It's like, I don't know if any of you have ever read the Willie Lynch letter, The Making of a Slave. If you can overlook the racial terms used in that, it really pretty good at explaining like how, I mean, it essentially explains the concept of newspeak, of altering of the language and belief systems of the people in order to create like sort of a self-perpetuation of slavery and throughout generations. I think it could be very edifying and something that people would could help people to comprehend what's going on in the world if they could manage to keep themselves from being triggered. And you could if you just take the N word and things like that out of that, it's very explanatory of the sort of shit going on in the world. Anyways, I think I'm run out of space here. So that will be the end of this video. Alright.